told her we needed some, like, fantasy gag. She got really into it.
Onward!
Was dope. Go see it. Easy 2 out of 2. I rarely say this, and actually on principle, I never say this. But because it's a new movie and it's not breaking box office hits, here's, I guess, a spoiler warning. If you want to experience this movie in full, go see it before you watch this review. It's a beautiful film, and probably nothing else in this review will make sense until you do. The question that Onward wrestles with is that to grow into confident, mature adults, does our need for a male role model need to be our literal biological dad? Its claim is that it can be anyone who pushes us to be the best version of ourselves. This is the core theme that the entire movie hangs on. If you're surprised by that, or you're wondering how we came to that conclusion, worry not, young wizard, writer, person. That is what this video is about. If we're to look at stories as examples on how we should live, it's integral that we know how to decode what they're trying to say. So we're going to walk through the process of finding a theme and discussing what to pay attention to in order to determine the story's core nutrient.
So you're saying we're going on a quest?
So far, I don't necessarily know you guys' reaction to this new direction we're taking with Critical Hit. We only know what you tell us. Kind of why I push the comments so much. For all I know, you're just sitting there in your chair thinking, yeah, he's kind of lost me on this whole thematic survival information thing. But I like his low and coherent, slightly nasally voice, so I'll just keep listening. I haven't received a whole lot of pushback on this somewhat fantastic claim I keep making. That stories have a specific theme, which is why the story is being told in the first place. The more popular cultural narrative is that stories have many themes. Essentially, any topic discussed in a story that has any implications as to how the reader should live is kind of put in this blanket term theme. It also usually becomes a cop-out when you start talking to people about how important stories are. Well, that's a theme, which is frustrating. I mean, take like
Onward?
Lion King, for instance. Hakuna Matata is not a theme. It's not the theme. It's actually the antithesis to the theme. The story of Lion King is absolutely not saying that you should leave your past behind you, run away from your problems, and have no worries. It's saying that that's a bad thing to do, that it's immature and allowing terrible things to happen, like Scar taking over. What it's actually saying, Rafiki sums up pretty well.
Oh yes, the past can hurt. But the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it.
You need to confront the traumas of your past, and you need to take responsibility for your actions in order to learn and grow. The survival information is something along those lines. So, anyone who took Hakuna Matata away from that movie as a life motto, you're doing it wrong. What's even more frustrating is that Disney themselves selling those shirts that embody this worldview that they themselves, by association with the film, say is a bad strategy for life. The point I'm making is that there are many ideas that a story will just encounter by playing itself out through the psychology of its characters. But all of those ideas are there to support the single claim that the story is wrestling with. Anywho, this now brings us all the way back to finding the theme for this movie wasn't and still isn't super easy, which is a lesson for us writers. It is an overall really well told story, but its theme could have been felt more powerfully if it wasn't fighting for attention from the other ideas that we're about to discuss. So instead of breaking apart this film for you, we wanted to show you guys the process so we can find and articulate the theme better together. This way you can also use these tools to determine a story's core nutrient.
When we initially came out of the film, we thought the central theme was something along the lines of, you can't let fear get in the way of who you want to be. We got here by using the first useful analysis tool. Act structure allows us to analyze how the character does or doesn't grow throughout the story. Acts can be broken into proposal, argument, conclusion. When we look at the first act, or the proposal, we see what the character needs. In Onward, we initially saw Ian afraid of speaking up. For example, the scene where his classmate is resting his feet on Ian's chair. We also see Ian afraid of merging into traffic, and we see him being afraid of inviting people to his birthday party. And then we look at the third act. We see him, without a moment of hesitation, fight a dragon as a master wizard, only obtained by overcoming his fears. So that gave us our initial premise of you can't let fear get in the way of who you want to be. When we reanalyzed the whole movie through that lens to see if it was well supported, we found great stuff. Ian's mom refers to him as scared, and even at one point in the movie says something like, I have one son who's not afraid of anything and one son who's afraid of everything. He slowly overcomes those same fears that he struggled with in Act 1. He spoke up to the Manticore and trusts himself to overcome the fear of falling. And the most convincing scene was when they're on the Cheeto boat and Barley reveals he actually has a fourth memory with their dad. Barley recounts to Ian that he actually let fear get in the way of saying goodbye to their dad. He says, I promised I would never be afraid again. We were quite pleased with that argument as to what the theme is. It's a difficult, profound claim, pertinent to our culture, and seemingly well demonstrated throughout the film.
But we were then met with a few problems. The loudest one was the big scene where Ian realizes that Barley has been his father figure the whole time. It isn't the end of the world if it doesn't fit our current theme. How to Train Your Dragon, Hiccup sacrifices for Toothless and breaks his leg, and that doesn't have anything to do with the movie's theme of accepting non-traditional values. It would be weird though if a big thematic reveal like that had nothing to do with the core armature. Was he afraid of seeing Barley as a father figure? I don't think the movie said that. But the real kicker for me was when I looked at the second tool for deciphering a story's theme. The inciting incident is when the two sides of the thematic argument are put to the test.
Lion King. You're told you accidentally killed your dad, the king. Should you accept the consequences and learn from it, or should you run away and hope the problem goes away? AKA, the story.
How to Train Your Dragon. A leader's son realizes that he has different values than the established tradition. Should we hold on to the tradition, or should we accept new knowledge and grow with it? AKA, the story.
WALL-E. A conscious robot finds out the Earth is inhabitable again. Do we keep repeating our preset paths of least resistance in our manufactured home? Or do we jump off the path, turn off autopilot, and do the hard work in order to grow and ultimately cultivate a better life for humanity on our home? AKA, the story.
So when we look back at Onward, Ian brings back half of his dad instead of all of it. Should he keep living his life controlled by fear, or not let it get in the way and grow towards who he wants to be? See how that's kind of like weird and disjointed? Once I realized that, I knew I needed to reevaluate the worldview that Onward is trying to teach us. That, and then a lot of conversations with Kaylee and my two good friends Jeb and Preet, who also helped me make this short film. I know I already plugged it, but you work on something 5 years, you keep plugging it. So I took a step back. I already knew that a theme like you may already have what you need was kind of in the ballpark, but that didn't encompass how Ian grew from the first act to the third act. Also, there were a couple scenes that didn't thematically fit in Don't Let Fear Get in the Way of Who You Wanted to Be. Like learning that he needed to focus in order to grow the gas can, or needing to be honest to stay in disguise. And then it hit me. Why did he want to meet his dad? He wanted a role model to show him how to properly grow into a mature adult. I realized that Ian's growth is a coming of age story, and then a lot started to fall into place. So, Ian's turning 16, or Western age of becoming an adult. You can get a driver's license, you're not fully considered a teenager, all the major effects of puberty have more or less come to fruition. They establish him wearing his dad's sweatshirt, and he's like, it finally fits. And his mom's like, oh, my little baby's all grown up. This also establishes the problem. He's now physically coming of age, but still mentally, socially, and emotionally immature. The movie establishes him as scared, sure, but also not confident in who he is. He doesn't value himself or his needs, shown by the kid who's putting his feet up on his chair. He doesn't feel ready to do things out of his comfort zone. When he's inviting those kids to his party, he's shown to not be very good at improvising when Barley comes and throws him off his script. Also, he lies to them, saying that there wasn't a party in the first place. He knows he wants to be a man. This is shown to us through his list, titled New Me. But he doesn't have a dad to show him how. They show us this when he writes, be like dad. They also show this through his eagerness to learn anything about his dad. He learns that his dad is bold, So he wants to be bold.
And when we look at the second act, we see he learns all these things from Barley teaching him magic. You must improvise on a quest and use whatever you have. You have to speak from a place of confidence with your heart's fire, meaning you believe what you say matters. You must be focused and disciplined. You have to be honest. You have to trust that you're capable of manifesting things into the world. So now, if we go back to the inciting incident, what is being tested? Ian thinks he needs his biological dad as a father figure in order to grow into a fearless, confident, and mature adult. But then he's given half dad with the hope of meeting all of him. Does he need his biological dad to fulfill his need for a father figure? Or has someone else already fulfilled that role? AKA, the story.
Then if we relook at the third act, fighting the dragon isn't only about overcoming fear. It's about all the aspects of becoming mentally, socially, and emotionally mature. Only now is he capable of doing the highest level of magic, arcane lightning, which shows that he can now significantly impact the world. He performs this only after realizing that he has become more mature than when he started. Not by having his dad as a role model, but Barley. One of my favorite moments helps inform this too. After the magic reveals that Ian thinks Barley is a screw-up, there's a scene of them talking after dancing with their dad. The purpose of the scene is to show Ian that he needs to be able to trust Barley in order for Barley to fulfill his need for a father figure. That he has a well-informed worldview that is accurate and mature. Ian won't respect and therefore learn from Barley if he dismisses his way of life. Like, Barley is confident, but if Ian thinks he's confident because he's out of touch with reality, then he'll never accept or look up to Barley as a father figure. And then he wouldn't trust his encouragement or his critique. So after thinking through all of that, now comes a moment where we try to articulate what the story is saying into one all-encompassing claim, which honestly I haven't nailed down yet. And this is where you guys come in, all you literature people. If you can find a better way to word what Onward's about, just leave it in the comments or throw it over on Discord and then we'll discuss it. That would be sick. But it's something like, father figures don't have to be your biological dad. So those are some of the ways that we look at movies to really break down what we can take away from them in order to inform how we can keep growing and changing and attempting to do the best we can with this life that we got. I hope that helped. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions, thoughts, things you want us to cover, if anything was confusing. I know that there's terms that I'm using and kind of glossing over. So for those, you can either wait till I make a video digging deeper into them, or you can watch this entire podcast series. It's super great. Your choice. So we took a break here because Onward came out and, gotta be relevant so the kids will watch. If you think that this is important content, please support it on Patreon. It's the only way this can keep going. This video is produced by Connor Fitzer, David N., Caitlin Taylor, Miley Greenwell, and Matt Laskowski. Thanks to all CriticalHit patrons and to everybody watching. Hope you guys have a good couple of weeks. Bye.